All right, and welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. We're starting out looking at the sun here in 171 angstroms and colorized magnetogram to see two sunspots, 2822 and 2824. The more extreme sunspot is 2824. Here's a close-up of it. And it is still a beta class sunspot. Here it is in 94 angstroms. And I would remind our viewers that 94 and 131 angstroms take 10 images per minute instead of only 2. These are specifically designed to view solar flares and coronal mass ejections. So this is 131 angstroms. The other wavelength that takes 10 images per minute from the SDO, 10 images per minute instead of only 2 images per minute. A temporal resolution of 5 times. So check out 94 and 131 when the activity kicks up. Here's 1700 angstroms. This is just extreme UV light. And you can see the umbrae associated with sunspot 2824 have remained pretty stable here over the past 24 hours. A little bit of minor flaring there. No major solar flares. We'll get to it. Here's a diagram of the solar system. There's where things will be in a week. It looks like full moon coming. And what will you be doing with your final 30 days of spring or perhaps autumn? We'll be streaming live for the solstice. Here's a star chart I draw in the ecliptic. I face mine to the south as I'm currently facing the south. Feel free to pause the video if you're interested in seeing where the ecliptic lies today, and make your own star chart if you like at in-the-sky.org. The radio flux of the 10.7 centimeter variety, the 2800 megahertz radio flux, currently at 76 solar flux units. Here that is in context. It's the 1-year chart. The black line is the radio flux. The red line is the proportional sunspot number. And NOAA is continuing to forecast periods of geomagnetic unrest. So every place you see a KP4 here in the next couple of days is a NOAA forecast for geomagnetic unrest. I'm not sure what that is. If they're just guessing when the coronal mass ejection is going to arrive, or if it's a coronal hole wind stream, I frankly don't know. But that's the NOAA forecast. We're also seeing a lull of 7 magnitude earthquakes. Here's the 90-day graph, the bar graph from volcanodiscovery.com. It's a 7 magnitude earthquake drought. And those typically end in earthquakes. We did see a 6.7 magnitude out in the southern Pacific Ocean. That was the largest of the past 24. And a few 5 magnitude quakes as well. Let's run down the list. The Fiji Islands saw a 5.2 at 388 kilometers depth in the deep quake capital of the world. The deep quake capital of the world, folks. Oceania, the area north of New Zealand. Certainly the deep quake capital of the world. And I'm just letting the list scroll here. Nepal also saw a 5.3. So this 6.7 magnitude quake came in just after midnight there at 0 dark 42 minutes after midnight universal time. That 6.7 magnitude quake. Also a small deep quake at Argentina, a 4.1 at nearly 200 kilometers depth. And let's look at volcanoes. Etna is back to erupting. Mount Etna has produced an 18,000-foot ash plume as it has been exploding on the Isle of Sicily. Cinnabung also erupting. Semeru, volcanic ash reported to be at 14,000 feet of altitude. Samisa in the Aleutian Islands. Small eruptions producing minor ash deposits within the vicinity of the active north crater of Mount Cerberus, and ash clouds under 10,000 feet. Fuego, no volcanic emissions observed at Fuego in Guatemala. Sangay in Ecuador is exploding, 24,000-foot ash plume there. Revenador exploding, 15,000-foot ash plume there. And Sabancaya also exploding, 26,000-foot ash plume. Please don't pole vault the caldera. We'll have to do a video about Steve Stimpak, the world's leading caldera pole vaulter, as a public service message from smAsho.com. And let's get back to solar data here at the sun-facing suite of instruments on the GOES 16. No major solar flares over the past 24. Don't be surprised to see one, as Sunspot 2824 is a beta-class sunspot capable of producing large solar flares. No spikes in the proton flux either. There's the graph of the GOES proton flux. No spikes in this as we forecasted. Here's the 3-day chart of the GOES magnetometer. And it's looking fairly normal here. We do have a North Pole current sheet showing up soon. Give it a couple of days. North Pole current sheet shown here in green, South Pole current sheet shown in blue. It's the heliospheric current sheet. You're looking at the polarity of it. This data is derived from 51 ground-based magnetometers, as well as magnetometers at Lagrangian point 5 stereo A and Lagrangian point 4 at stereo B. Here's another diagram of the same data from the line of sight perspective. And here's the coronal hole plot line of sight, which also shows the sun's B field. And we do see some coronal holes here. There's a North Pole one rotating in as well. We can expect a coronal hole wind stream from this South Pole-oriented coronal hole in about 2 days. And here are the maps of the detected sunspot groups and detected coronal holes. And you can see sunspot 2824 showing up as a beta-class sunspot. 2822 is alpha-class. And there is a coronal hole up here and down here. I don't know why it's not showing up on the detected coronal holes. We'll just move on. The KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, is currently at 1, geomagnetic calm conditions. Next, we'll look at the real-time solar wind. And we just saw a pulse come in here. Let's take a look at this. We just saw a recent uptick in the solar wind density and the speed. Also a change in the temperature and a shift in the phi angle happening at about 6:55 universal time. Current conditions are around 12 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density, solar wind speed 370 kilometers per second, hardly even elevated. Here's a geospace magnetosphere movie showing you 4 hours of data. Magnetohydrodynamic pressure measured in, actually modeled in nanopascals by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. And we'll let that play through as it refreshed. To show you the most current data that we can. Anyway, we're seeing pretty steady pressure here, at least for the first half of the video, and then a small increase here. A little bit of an uptick there in the pressure in the last couple of hours. Next, ground magnetic perturbations. Geospace delta P changes to Earth's B field. We showed you the sun's. Here's the Earth's B field in terms of changes to it. Whenever you see delta in science, folks, it means change in. So changes in the Earth's B field, we don't see too many. We show this daily, though, because we are experiencing a polar excursion, a geomagnetic polar excursion. Thanks to our Twitch viewers, by the way. Today's video won't be on Twitch. Twitch.tv/smAsho if you want to see us stream live. We're also on Twitter. And we've only bled 5 followers in the past couple of months, now down to 124, thanks to our YouTube viewers. And most of our content in terms of videos is located at youtube.com/smAsho. Check our playlists, youtube.com/smAsho/playlists. We're also on BitChute. There is some exclusive content there. Next, thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding for the content. If you'd like the earliest alerts and all kinds of other perks, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAshomash. We'll send you music. We'll send you ringtones. We'll send you custom graphics like desktops for your phone, custom edits of solar imagery, and all kinds of other science data that nobody else in the world gets, as we need incentive for the content. Thanks for increasing the probability that it will continue to exist and remain publicly visible. I'd also like to welcome everybody to the Neo Renaissance. We saw the writing on the wall a couple of years ago, and we created our own website. You can find all of our social media links there at smashamash.com. Smashamash.org what's the word? It will send you to smashamash.com and click on the merch link. I'd like to show you today's merch. Today's featured merch is the Google Bias t-shirt. So I'm actually wearing it right now. The Google Bias shirt. If you're using Google as a verb, the word Google means to obtain biased search results by using the Google World Wide Web search engine to obtain biased information about somebody or something on the World Wide Web. To use it in a sentence, I Googled it, and now I know less about it. And again, you can find that from a link at smashamash.com on the smAsho merch link. I Googled it, and now I know less about it. We've released a cosmology and a meteorology segment. If you didn't check those out, please do so. They're all separate videos today, as there was too much stuff to cover in the daily space weather. Next, looking at Earth's Van Allen belts, there's a diagram of them. We don't see any charging hazards caused by too many electrons surrounding Earth. Here's a 1-year chart of it from solon.info, and here's a 3-day chart of the electron flux, just in a normal range here, nothing to write home about. And here's the relativistic electron forecast. No real surprises here, expecting pretty flat levels of electron flux over the next 3 days. According to NOAA, the green boxes are the forecast, the yellow diamonds are the observation. Here's the total electron content forecast visualization. This is the entire error column. It's showing you electron density. And the likelihood of GPS errors goes up as this approaches the red colors. Most GPS errors occur around the equator at noon. Here's another diagram of the atmosphere showing you where the F layer is located in preparation for the next frame. The ionogram, the earthly ionogram, it's showing you 2 days of data at 2 hours per second. And for some reason, the animation has stopped. Let's get that going. And there we go. And what you're looking at here is the vibrational frequency of the ionosphere, folks, in megahertz, millions of vibrations per second. Everything looking fairly normal there. There's the latest image from 8 o'clock Universal Time. Again, we did make a meteorology segment today, so check that out if you haven't. There's some extreme weather striking the Gulf Coast of the U.S. And here come our daily space weather bonus features. So this is the latest hydrogen alpha imagery in 6,562.8 angstroms from the El Teide Observatory in El Teide, Spain. The likelihood of solar flares and coronal mass ejections is still there, folks. There are filaments in between Earth and Sun. Here's the latest intensity gram. Sunspot 2822 in a setting mode. It's about to get unnamed. We've also got a new group forming right here. And here's Sunspot 2824 beta class. There is the umbre associated with that. And there is the colorized magnetogram. Here's this new group forming. That looks like Sunspot 2825 to me, as Sunspot 2822 sets. Last but not least, here's 193 angstroms. One of the many ionized emission spectral states of iron. And here's a close-up of the southern coronal holes. And we'll close things out with a full disk view from the Solar Dynamics Observatory in 171 angstroms. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Remember, stare at the sun, attempt to understand the physics, don't drink. But if you do drink, don't drive. Seriously, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back.